Maybe I shouldn't be seeing things through my own eyes like I've been telling you. What I mean is, when I had everything the world could offer me, but I couldn't sleep, I went to a psychiatrist for $25 a visit. We talked about my girly days, and it seemed to come out differently. Dr. Sesson, that's not his real name, didn't say much. He was always writing, and I was always talking. An odd thing happened then. I was a star, and there was a lot of pressure on me from wake up to sleep, which I got little of. So doctors had recommended red pills, and green pills, and white pills, and two-tone pills like automobiles. It seemed to me each pill gave me a different kind of dream. I told Dr. Session about this, and he only smiled. The red pills would give me passionate dreams, while the white ones would give me the aura dreams, and so forth. I told Gregory Peck that once, and he jotted it down. Why? I don't know. So I was going twice a week to a psychiatrist to try and stop my insomnia. I think in the beginning I was too much for him. I was very rich, and yet I'd beg men to give me their dirty shirts so I could wash them. I just dug it. I've been doing that same kind of thing since high school. At first, he thought it was some kind of sex thing. But then after a while, he thought it was just wild that I liked to wash men's shirts like he liked to play golf. We tried to remember the first time I washed a man's shirt, but each time I'd remember a more first time than the first time. I told him the previous night. I think I was 8. But then I think we found the very first time. I was on a roller coaster with a boy whose name I don't even remember. He stood up daringly as we zoomed down the tracked coaster hills, and I was afraid he'd be hurt. I tried to pull him back in the seat, and when I grabbed his shirt, there was a large rust-colored stain. It almost looked like blood. It was washed and didn't come out. Later in the day, I asked if I could wash his shirt. I had to see if I could get that spot out. I felt like a little Lady Macbeth. It didn't come out. The boy thought it was a very intimate thing I had done and tried to get me to lay down in the fields with him. I didn't like him that much, so I never saw him again, but I looked for other shirts to wash. I think the doctor's summing up was something along the lines of, "You see, Barbara, the way you cure a transvestite, a man who likes to wear women's clothes, is to give him a girl's handkerchief or panties so he can keep it in his pocket, and then he can hold it and feel it all day. This, after a while, will satisfy his virgin urge. We hope eventually we can even take the handkerchief or panties away entirely. The way I see it is if you want many men, but there is a moral rustic streak somewhere deep inside you that won't let you sleep around promiscuously. So to get a man's shirt and symbolically cleanse him, and by you washing it, gives you some sort of subconscious satisfaction." That was the summing up of a Beverly Hills psychologist. But while it sounded logical, it wasn't true. Today I'm still weird about washing men's shirts, but it's usually after I've slept with them. Well, at $25 a visit, I stuck it out for 6 months, but I wasn't sleeping. I had my own theory. I told him, "They give me parts that require talents I don't have. I panic. If you had to cure all the patients by next Tuesday under penalty of losing them all, would you sleep at night?" His answer was only a smile. He didn't think much of my analysis. One day he said to me, "Barbara, you're the strangest patient I've ever treated. You are so many people yet nobody. Who is the real Barbara? I haven't found her yet. I don't know if I ever will, or for that matter, if you ever will. I want you to try another psychiatrist for a while and see if he's more successful." I was pretty smart in those days, shrewd, especially where men were concerned. You know how they say girls always fall in love with their psychiatrist? Well, I had the feeling he was falling in love with me, a real switch. He was a fine man and a good psychiatrist, and he morally couldn't ask me out to start the romance unless I ceased to be his patient. My theory turned out to be correct. His name was Jonathan. We spent most of our dates talking about me. It was like getting free treatment. He ever never made a pass at me. Maybe he had problems. I asked him once point blank why he didn't try to kiss me or take me away for a weekend. I'm a married man, he told me. I had known he was married. I had long ago erased that as a reason for not going to bed with a man I liked. But I didn't say anything. I enjoyed our dates. I'll never forget some things he told me about myself, and they were very complimentary. I never trust a man's words when they are on the make for me. They're just bait. But this doctor was sincere. You have what every woman in the world wants, he explained. Adoration, success, achievement, men, fame, everything. Yet it doesn't satisfy you. Very deep inside you, there are confused values. You want different kind of values, satisfactions. You want just one man who doesn't exist, a strong man, yet one you can handle. A handsome one, yet one of no interest to other women. A rich one, yet who will live as a beachcomber with you. A talented one, but one who won't steal any of your glory. A cheerful one, but one who will fit into your many faceted moods. In that area alone, you're in trouble. You're a big star, yet I don't believe it was ever meant for you. You have great chunks of emptiness inside. Strangely enough, it's your good points: conscience, generosity, love of fun, loyalty, that might mitigate against a continued success. A star in her worship by others must never be parted. Yet somewhere in your heart you realize the hollowness of your rewards. That is dangerous. Once you laugh at the value of what you've been striving and searching for, it's all over. Stardom requires faith in what it is, regardless of its faults. He was right. I gave him a kiss on the cheek for that speech. He only smiled, that enigmatic smile. But I did get under his skin. He switched me to Dr. Irving Bunt, a big baritone kind of man, which meant that I didn't see Jonathan anymore. Then I got a note from Jonathan one night asking me if I'd have dinner with him and Jack at the beach on Pacific Coast Highway near Malibu, a romantic eatery on the ocean. I was delighted too. He was terribly sober all during dinner. With coffee, he opened up. I'm coming to you with my problem, he said slowly. I'm in love with you. He held my hand on the table, which was daring for him. I'm married contently. I have 2 children. I'm not the kind of man who cheats. I can either get a divorce or ask you to marry me or try to fight it. He sighed heavily. I don't know if I'm strong enough. I was used to men being in love with me. I don't say that with conceit, just stating the facts of life. I even need the antidotes, which I use to deem necessary. Remember, I warned him lightly, I'm in many Barbaras. Which one do you love? All of them. He looked as if he were miserable. I was very sophisticated, and my solutions for problems were often a way out, but they worked. Do you want to go to bed with me? I asked him point blank. He seemed shocked. Yes, I do, but I love you. And he explained I'm the kind of man who doesn't ever cheat. You deal in theories, I deal in facts. I've been through the whole scam. You love me, I believe you, but you're bursting and with me wanting me physically. I like you and I'll help you. Once will might do it. It often does. Isn't that better than wrecking your home and maybe your life? I could see he was tortured, but he didn't answer. Pay the check. We'll drive up the coast, take separate rooms at the holiday house. Adjoining, they say, for 3 hours. I'll be in the next room for you. If you want me, I'll be there waiting. He acted like an odd emotion until we were in separate rooms at the holiday house. I lay down on his bed, fully clothed, and watched the rough surf out the window and started to smoke. I could hear him pacing, even hitting his fist against his open palm. He had to work it out by himself. In about an hour, he knocked on my door. "Will you kiss me?" he asked. When I opened the door, I returned his passionate kiss. "I'm going home," he said. I couldn't do it. I'm a mathematical kind of man. It just wouldn't work for me. "I'd always want you, always," repeated with fervor. I could see that he was suffering, but I was helpless. He wouldn't or couldn't take my advice. He only said one thing on the long way home. "I guess I'm the only man alive who would reject such a tempting offer." It was my turn to smile. I liked him very much and respected him. You know, I just realized that this is kind of a detective story. We want to find out what happened that started me on the skids down. Could it have been avoided? How? It's too late to come back, just a little bit. But first, how did I get there, to the very top? How did I do what few girls have done? Come from nothing to everything. How do you become a famous actress? Well, you keep hoping and trying and studying and always waiting for that magic wand to touch your shoulder. Without that, you can throw all the rest of it out. The wand can hit you anytime. The first time it touched me was in 1949. I was living in Hollywood with a girlfriend. I was in a shower, and my girlfriend, with too many martinis in her, parted the shower curtains and said, "Mr. Gordon is here." Well, Mr. Gordon, that's not his right name. Told me later he got a glimpse of me soaking wet with just soap on me, and he couldn't get the picture out of his mind. He wasn't in the movie business. He was better than that. He was a banker who lent money to motion picture producers. He was an odd kind of fellow. He got me movie jobs, and some of them were pretty good, but he never bothered me about sex. We did hit the hay once, but mostly he just liked me to be with him. He called me Angel, and it pleased to have a movie star on his arm, which I wouldn't have been. My girlfriend hadn't parted the shower curtains. He was so shy with women that my career might have been delayed a couple of years if it weren't for that. It's like a friend of mine once told me. He was working in Macy's department store for $18 a week. And 2 weeks after that, he was getting $125 a week as a publicist at Warner's studio, where one day he was putting cold compresses on Betty Davis's head because she had a headache. It all happened because he bumped into an old friend who was an executive at Warner's and was looking for a fellow with quiet disposition to hold Betty's hand. My point is, anything can happen at any time in this crazy magic business. This kid from Brooklyn, who had never seen a movie star in person, was suddenly one just the crowd out of sheer conscience. Most of the time, a chain of circumstances leads you to a goal, and every link has to have a place. For instance, I had a small part in a movie with Dennis Morgan and Jack Carson, courtesy of Mr. Morgan. There was a dumpy, rather grotesque little fellow always hanging around the water fountain where we were shooting. No one ever talked to him, and I felt sorry for him. So one day I had a drink of water and I said to him, "Hot, isn't it?" He stuttered badly, but managed to agree with me. We sort of became friendly. He was the director's son. He used to give me the scoop on what was happening behind the scenes. Like the young leading women had ulcers and the medicine she was taking sent her sky high, so she had trouble learning her lines and didn't care much. One day in August, no phony name, the car had 2 flats at the same time, and I drove him home. He asked me in. It was a stone mansion in Beverly Hills with sculptures all around inside. We sat sipping drinks when his father came in. He didn't even know me. I had such a small part. He was cussing his girl star and threw down a drink as he had still piped from throat to stomach. Then he got an art kick. You see, sissy, he said, we wouldn't have hired Charlie Chaplin to play Chaplin because the big eye of the audience requires exaggeration, sublimination, distortion to bring out the impression of the real thing. That's how it is with character in that picture. The writer is never able to draw his portrait as he wants him played. He is exact, and we must distort it to make it live. Maybe I don't make my point, I tell you. You walk across the room, sissy. Go ahead, walk. I got up and walked across the room thinking, these nutty directors. Fine, he said. Now walk across the room. What's your name? I told him, as Barbara Payton would do it. I walked across the room, I thought exactly. I had done it before. He was delighted. See, there's the slightest bit of exaggeration. You made my point exactly. You have talent, a driving inner talent. Now you'll go to bed with me. His son just kept sipping his drink. I smiled and said, I only lay down with men I want to bed down with. I don't even know you yet. He was even happier with that. You don't close the door. You leave the calling a heart of hope. Smart girl. After a while I left. After he had passed out, I was fascinated with the man. Next day on the set, he didn't recognize me, but he gave me, his son, a note for me. It read, will you have a late dinner with me tonight? I agreed, but I wondered how he was going to take me to dinner if he didn't recognize me. But August picked me up at midnight and took me to his father at a small restaurant in downtown Los Angeles. Then August left. The director, already several drinks ahead of me, talked to me in several foreign languages, none of which I understood. Everyone seemed to know him, and we always had something hanging over our table. He introduced me to everyone as Sissy. Sissy, he finally said to me in English, you're going to make a big star of yourself, and you're going to be miserable. His prediction came true, but it was inconceivable then. How? I asked. He laughed for 2 minutes, though I failed to get the joke. How? He repeated. How, brown cow? I'll tell you, brown cow, how. You go home tonight, take a hot shower, and go to bed. That's all there is to it. And? I asked suspiciously. He roared with laughter again. In the morning, take a cold shower, get dressed, and come to the set. My set. There I'll give you a script of my next picture. In there is a part of a young, innocent, idealistic female. She believes that people are good. She believes that she is good. She has one mistake. People are good, and because they are, she is able to outsmart them. You see, she is not good, because a young, innocent, idealistic female must be shattered in time. What comes of the ruins is a monster, a grabber, a shrew, from out of despair, delusion, and hate. That's your part. I made it for you. That's how, brown cow. How you will achieve your first faltering step to stardom. Well, I took all his recommendation showers, and came to the set, and he did give me a script. And that night I opened the script, which stamped second draft, and read it through. There was no part in it for me. There were only 2 middle-aged women and a girl of 12. I was indignant, hurt, and disillusioned. Next day, I had a chance to talk to him in the corner of the stage. What are you trying to do? I asked. Why did you lie to me? I was almost in tears. It only started for him to laugh again. What did you think of the story? He asked. I was furious. Terrible, I said. He looked around suspiciously. That's what I thought, but no one could give me an honest answer. I knew if you thought there was a part in it for you, you'd read it thoroughly, every word. You're sadistic, I said pretty loudly. He laughed some more and went back to direct the scene. August saw me in tears and clumsily tried to calm me. He's strange and uses people for puppets, but he always keeps his promise. Just wait him out. I took heart and did. A messenger boy brought a new script to my house the next morning. It had a note attached from the director. Try the part of Frida. It was a fine part, and he gave it to me without ever talking test. It helped me get my contract with Jimmy Cagney Productions. So you see, while it was kooky and wild, if I hadn't said it was hot to a stuttering, grotesque little man, I would have never gotten the part. That's the way an actress gets to be a star. You bounce higher and higher with the punches. The harder you hit, the higher the bounce. In the beginning, you never play your own game or with your own rules. You always play someone else's with their rules. That's the way it is. I met a big star at a cocktail party. Let's call him Joseph. It was long before I met and married French Chateau. And a big name star had all for me written all over him. I had a few roles by this time, and some people recognized me, and I was feeling pretty good. Joseph was 40-ish, wore a girdle, was divinely absent. He was married, but his wife lived in New York, or a suburb of it, and his home was in Brentwood. He hadn't seen her in 4 months when I met him. Barbara Payton, he said. Barbara Payton. He repeated my name several more times. I remember I saw you shopping at Saks last Thursday around 2 at the linen counter. It was true. He was very proud of his memory, which he worked on all the time. Turn around, he commanded. I turned. You have 3 larger freckles on one side of your nose. Your hair is fixed over an ear. There's a slight scratch on one side of your neck. Your dress is pink, cut low in front. Your ring is an emerald surrounded by small diamonds. Right? Exactly, Sherlock Holmes, I said. He was very proud, like a small boy. The party was a no easy one. Too full of people, and the thumbs band tried too hard to earn their money. Joseph shouted at me, "Let's go have a snack at Chasen's." It was fine with me. My escort was busy with another girl, so I didn't even bother to say goodnight. We made the rounds to several places, and everyone was quite indifferent to him. He pulled some part of the memory thing with people wherever we went. I don't know how it happened. Leave it to me. But we got into an argument over our repetitive worths or respective worth to society. In a little boy way, he was defensive about the fact that he didn't contribute much to society by playing rather scrutinous roles in pictures. It was about 3 in the morning that he said, "I want to show you something." We drove to old Chinatown. We parked a slick convertible when he rang a bell of an old wooden frame house. He had a big grin on his face. A fat old Chinaman answered the door, and it took him a minute to get in focus. Then he said happily, "Mr. G, come on in, come in." "Oh," answered Joseph. "I just want you to answer some questions for me. Who pays the rent here?" The old Chinaman said with a grin, "You do. You pay everything, food and everything." "He's a wonderful gentleman," he said to me. "And," went on Joseph, "what do I get in return?" "Like you say, happy smiles, happy smiles." Joseph looked at me triumphantly and said, "See?" "You come in," offered the Chinaman, but Joseph was already taking me to the car and waving goodbye. From Chinatown, we drove to an outlying section of the Whittier, where almost the same scene was reenacted with another family. Then he thumbed through a red leather notebook, showing me a long list of families he supported. I was convinced he did care what happened to his fellow man, and he did live with some purpose. He was proud of his achievement. I liked Joseph and stayed with him for several weeks. I met his influential friends, and they were very good to me. He was a rather simple and uncomplicated man who was generous and good-natured. He drank too much, but that's a common fault in the industry. He once said to me, I believe in the ancient proverb, what ye shall sow, so shall ye reap. That makes life easier for me. It gives me a road and a rule. I'm always conscious of the great trade. I was always good to him as he was to me, but after a while our lives took different paths. About 6 months after I met Joseph, I had a call from his attorney on New Year's Day. On New Year's Eve, driving while intoxicated, he had hit and killed an elderly couple in a crosswalk. His studio and friends were trying to help him out of it. Their one defense was that neither the old woman nor the old man could see well. It was a pitiful, weak defense, but Joseph had powerful connections. The stories in the paper were short and unclear. There was no mention that Joseph had been drinking. Joseph was out on bail and I immediately went up to see him. He was lying down in a silk bathrobe in his huge living room, staring at the ceiling. I didn't say anything, just held his hand, but sat that way for a long time. I tried to console him. Words didn't reach him. I kept telling myself to use this as an object lesson for myself. I'll say this for him. He didn't mourn over the possibility of disgrace or the loss of his career. He only cared about the two people he had killed. I volunteered to stay with him. I was afraid he might do something desperate, but he insisted he was all right and wanted to be alone. The case was squashed and Joseph was released. A huge sum of money was given to the sons and daughters of the old couple. I met Joseph in New York soon after that. He was hitting the bottle like there was no tomorrow. Plus, he was getting every slut in New York on his payroll. He died of a heart attack while in bed with one of them. That was squashed too, and the press agent shut the girl up with a couple of C notes. His death and his life too made a great impression on me. He had a compulsion for do good, yet fate decreed differently. I think after that, more and more I stopped planning. I did what I had to do. I felt a providence was directing me along a predetermined path. I didn't think I could fight it, and so it turned out. I think of Joseph all the time. As I got parts and possessions, I got richer, wiser, harder. I learned to go at it alone, so to speak. There was no way of trusting anyone. I had to learn this through disappointment after disappointment. I met the biggest: Clark Gable, Cary Grant, Irene Dunn, Elsa Lancaster, Charles Lawton, John Wayne, Lana Turner, everyone. My name was in the papers every day. I read the motion picture sections of every paper and threw away the rest. I read the Hollywood Reporter and Variety every day. They were my Bible. There was no time for anything but career. I ate it, drank it, breathed it, and was immersed in it. I thought of nothing else. My habits were still pretty good. I didn't smoke much, drink much, or go out too much. I think my values were pretty good too. But as I ascended the ladder of success, I also ascended the ladder of excess. At 10 p.m. after a hard day at the studio, I'd lay down alone at home and just have a good cry. I was so bone weary. I began to be afraid that my tears were symptomatic of something more serious. But I found that 2 thick shots of scotch would snap me out of it, and my strength would come back. I told myself the liquor was medicine, and it was, but the cure was far more dangerous than the disease. I was far from an alcoholic. I'd only drink after dinner until I went to bed. But what it did for me subconsciously, or even consciously, was to seek out other drinkers who drank after dinner until they went to bed. And one of them contributed greatly to the attitude I developed that led to my slide downhill. My friends often blame my romance with Tom Neal for my downfall, possibly. But long before Tom, I met Bud Keller, a phony name. He was a champion ruiner of girls in Hollywood. Bud was handsome, charming, wealthy, young, on the way to motion picture stardom, and completely unreliable and unscrupulous. He was a lovable rogue, and I was immediately attracted to him. I was introduced to him at a bar in Santa Anita racetrack. He had just lost $700 on a race and was tearing up his tickets so vigorously that his arms hit mine as I passed. I recognized him immediately. He apologized. That was that. Then I met him at the $50 window. I wasn't betting, just tagging along with a friend. He smiled and held and just purchased ticket under my nose and said, "Will you spit on it for luck?" I spit daintily, like a lady should, and we walked together on the top steps in the Turf's club to see the race. My split did no good. His horse lost. But he was philosophic about it this time. "Come," he said, "I'll buy you a drink." So we stood against the bar and talked. He was full of jokes, ideas, plans, compliments. He seemed to bubble with energy and words. He was so full of shit. I learned not long ago that Bud was a psychopathic liar about the most important and unimportant things. And when caught, he would just admit it. His words are completely useless. It's almost diabolical. And yet, he was so entertaining, I hated to have given him up. I met him before the 5th race, and after the 8th, he begged me to marry him. Next day, I found he was married with 2 children. He lived with his families of some time, and the beach the rest. After a while, I was almost dependent upon him, and I found out he was dependent on me too. I guess we both had a thin streak of evil in us that attracted the other. I wonder why, through my life, even though I thought of myself as a fairly good human being, I was always attracted by evil. I'll say this for Bud. He taught me how to handle evil, how to dull the conscience, how to enjoy it more, and more important, how to get away with it. Sometimes seeing some things of Bud I did, I wondered if he didn't just because they were bad, because often the rewards were sparse. For instance, there was a lumpy little actor, a hunchback named Benny, who the producers would often give bit parts because they felt sorry for him. He was a shy, unhappy little man who showed no relation to anything except one thing. When a pretty girl would pass, especially if they were in showing flesh, his big eyes would follow her like a tiger would a sheep. Everyone was hip to this, and it was like a standing joke around the sets. One day, Benny brought me a glass of water and was extremely attentive to me. But I was quick to smell a rat. Said rat being Bud, it was the male lead in the picture I was doing. What happened, which I wrung out of Bud, is that Bud told Benny I had a secret yin for him. I talked to Benny and told him I only liked him as a brother. Then I booted Bud right in the ass. But in the beginning, Bud's next joke was to send Benny to a showgirl's dressing room with a piece of adhesive tape. He had prearranged it so when Buddy walked around, she'd be nude and would scream. It worked according to schedule, except that Benny was transfixed to his spot, and the scream just floated over his head without any reaction from him. The showgirl threw a robe over and gently pushed Benny out of the room, where he stood outside, hardly breathing. He had to be led away in a trance. After that, Bud invited Benny to go to a party with us. I begged Bud to stop it, but he conned me into it on the basis that Benny would have the first good time of his life. I knew he must be up to something, but I couldn't figure out what. It was a typical cocktail party at a big, beautiful Beverly Hills home with groups of people spread around the house and garden. Bud introduced Benny around the house. It was a very dignified party with many guests in formal evening clothes. I was always fascinated by the way Bud worked. When a cute little blonde, Cuddles, came to him, Bud was just more trite and more effusive with her. And she in turn to Benny, whose eyes were starting to pop. There was something familiar about Cuddles, but I couldn't quite place her. Cuddles now had her arms through Benny as if he'd gone through together for months. He was loving every second of it, and every once in a while Cuddles would give him a kiss, and he'd just beam. "What are you up to?" I asked Bud, with deviltry. He swore he was innocent, that he just wanted Benny to be happy. Bud and I were sitting talking to some people later when Benny came over leading Cuddles by the hand. "You know what?" he said with more confidence than I'd ever seen him have. "Cuddles has consented to be my wife." They had not known each other more than an hour. Cuddles kissed him. It was crazy. "Hey, hey," shouted Bud. "Let's all drink to the bride and groom, shall we drink?" Bud then announced it to the rest of the room. There was much celebration and the drinking accelerated. "Tell you what," Bud said to the couple, "we'll go out to my place for a nightcap. Just you two and Barbara and me." It was agreed, so the four of us went to the beach. All during the ride, the two were necking in the back seat. I was trying to figure out what the catch was, and I came to the conclusion that for once, Bud was on the level. At the beach house, Bud fixed drinks and said to the couple, "I think you two are going to be very happy together. Yes, sir, you'll have nothing but bliss. But something disturbs me." Cuddles, who wasn't doing so well in holding her liquor, answered thickly, "What's that?" Benny to stop sipping his drink. Bud lowered his voice. "The cause of most broken marriages is sex, the lack of it. Too much of it, their own kind, incompatible sex. No couple should marry unless they know the intimate side of marriage is going to work out." "Oh," interrupted Cuddles, "we're going to do just fine, aren't we, Ducky?" Benny was bleary by this time and echoed Cuddles' reaction. "Now look, you two, listen to me. I've been through it. Barbara has too. You two spend the night here at the beach house. You take the upstairs room way at the back and see if you're compatible, which I'm sure you are. Barbara and I will stay down here." Benny seemed embarrassed and almost reluctant, but Cuddles thought it was wonderful. "It's beautiful," she said with tears in her eyes, "just beautiful. It's the way to endure lasting happiness," she said with a sigh. "I'm great in bed." "Well," said Benny, still undecided. "How about that?" Bud said to me. "He's got one of the most attractive females in America and he doesn't want to go to bed with her." "It's not that," replied Benny. Cuddles stuck him by the hand and said, "Good night, all. Hope you much have as fun as we will." Bonnie finally kissed her and they waved up the steps together. "I don't get it," I told Bud. "There must be a gimmick. We should hear them laughing and talking upstairs." "You do me injustice," Bud said with mock sadness. "I just want people to be happy together." He mixed a bunch of martinis and I turned on the record player. "Must be getting along fine together," Bud said. "Notice how quiet it is down?" I lit a cigarette and looked at the steps, and there was Benny coming down slowly. He had only his shirt and shorts on, and he carried his jacket on his arm. Suddenly, he stopped on one step and let out a groan of pain, throwing his head high. He didn't look at us. He just stared straight ahead. "What's the matter?" I asked, running to him. He shook me off and kept walking across the room out the door. Bud was roaring with laughter. It made no sense to me. "What happened?" I asked Bud sharply. "Nothing. He's just a little bit bashful. They're going to be very happy together," he roared with the laughter again. Benny had left. He'd gone out, half undressed, into the beach, just walking like a mechanical man. A strange, strange sight. I was pointing to the top of the stairs. There stood Cuddles without a stitch of clothes. Cuddles was a man. It's a peculiar thing, but though I continued to get better parts, more money, more attention, I still went around with Bud despite its atrocities. In order to promote our picture, which we had completed at the end of 1949, we were asked at little money to go to an interview television show. I was reluctant, but Bud insisted it would be good for us. On the way back from Palm Springs, our car broke down in a lonely stretch of road. We never made it to the show. I learned later that Bud purposely arranged the breakdown. It seems that several years before, the MC of the show wouldn't put Bud on the show because he didn't think Bud was big enough. That was Bud's way of getting even. Furious, since I was Patsy, I called the particular MC and arranged to go to the show the following week. which offer he reluctantly accepted after I told him the whole story. The night of the telecast, Bud locked me in the bedroom and couldn't get to the show. I swore out a warrant for his arrest for breaking into my house, which he had done. He spent 3 days in jail, and when he got out, he called me and said, "You're learning, baby." We became friendly again. That is until he told my producer I was suffering from an infectious disease and showed the producer a statement from my doctor, which had been forged. When it all came out, I swore I'd never speak to Bud again, nor I did. But I always admitted he had a powerful influence on my life. Bud had been living in Europe the last few years, where they understood him a little better than anyone else here did.